What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Contractor Whiteboard Series. My name is Paul Campanario, and I'm part of Next Level Entrepreneurs, business consultant, owner of Floors Reborn, and also partner and owner of Advanced Resins. And I'm looking forward to going over today with you this information. So we're going to talk a lot about bidding and why it's important to have the correct bid so that you can get the margins you're looking for per job. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into bidding, so we're going to try to touch on as much as we can. And we have three different size jobs that we're going to go over. This is going to be more geared towards the concrete coating industry. So, flake flooring, maybe metallic flooring, concrete resurfacing, things like that. So the material costs are typically higher in this industry. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. And once again, these are just scenarios, and you're going to be able to plug in your numbers for your material, your numbers for your labor in your market and in your area. So this is just a guide on how you should be going about approaching each job. So let's get into it. So this first job here is 500 square feet. And there are three major components that you need to consider when you're trying to find the right price to bid a job at. So your cost of goods are going to include your material costs. It's going to include your labor and other costs that I'm going to go over with you. So in your material costs, you have your sundries, which are your throwaways, consumables, which we'll talk about, and then your labor, and then other, which are other like direct labor costs, such as insurance, workers' comp, and things like that. So we'll get into it. So in order to find your material costs, obviously you need to talk to your supplier, or you need to find out from your local store or supplier what your material costs are going to be for that job. So let's just say for 500 square feet, we have material costs at $875. And that's at $1.75 for that material, and that's per square foot. So basically, we just did 500 times $1.75, and that came up with our $875. Now, we included 10% in throwaways, so that's going to be your buckets. That's going to be your roller covers, plastic, tape, things like that. So we just added in another $87 to that material cost. Labor. If we have two guys that are going to complete this in, let's say, a day and a half, okay, you have essentially 12 hours of labor, okay? So you have 8 hours one day, a half, 4 hours the next day. So that's 12 hours times two employees. And let's just say they're making $25 an hour. So that's going to equal 600. So you multiply this, your 12 hours times 2 times 25, that equals your 600. And that's for 1.5 days. So now you have your labor costs, okay? Now, your other costs, you have taxes, okay? So you have to pay payroll taxes more than likely, unless you're contracting the work out. And in most states, you're usually not contracting it out because there's a lot of, it gets a little sticky when you start doing contracting. But some of you might. However, for the most part, you probably have W-2 wage employees. And so you got to consider taxes. Now, let's just call it 11% for payroll taxes of this 600, and now you're at 132. Let's say you have some travel expenses to get to the job each day. We'll add in another $65. Let's say there was some special shipping involved with maybe your material, or maybe there's some other types of costs. So we're going to have $75 extra for shipping. Okay, now sometimes people will include that in material, but if you forget, you can line item it and always go through that sheet, if you will. If you have this down on a spreadsheet, that way you know you're not missing it. And I forgot, your shipping costs in your material, then you just line item it there to get it in. Now your insurance. So remember, this is direct costs related to this job. So if you have $90 of workers' comp insurance, that's going to be a percentage of your labor costs. Okay, so what does that calculate to? 15% would be your workers' compensation rate for the $600 there. So 90 into 600 is 15%, and now you have workers' comp. Now, why do we include that in this bid? Well, because that labor is directly related to that job. So you have workers' comp insurance that is directly related to labor, that is directly related to that job. Okay. So if you had discounts or we got some other costs that you can factor in, we're just leaving that at zero for now. So now if you add all these up, you have your $362 and you add these three together and that's going to give you your total costs. So to break it down, you have 500 square feet and your total cost, which includes material, labor, and other items, is going to be $1,924 to get that job done. Now, assuming you can get it done in 2 days with two guys at $25 an hour. Okay. So that's probably the most important piece to this, is actually estimating how long it's going to take and being real close to that estimate on the time frame with guys or gals on how to complete that job. So if you're off here, then that's going to throw off everything. And of course, you could be conservative with over budgeting for it. If you get done in a shorter amount of time, then you'll be better off. But we all know a lot of times we go over, so just try to be as close as possible. So now, assuming we have $1,924 in total costs, where do we want to be with our profit margins? Now, typically in a contracting industry, okay, a tradesman or someone in a contractor field that is a service-based industry. So if you're a tile setter, if you're a painter, concrete coating installer, resurfacing, concrete work, you name it, you want to be somewhere between 30 and 50%. 30% might be on larger jobs. Maybe if there's certain types of jobs that you're just really wanting to get, maybe you're starting out. Those are things that would sway you to go a little bit on the lower profit side. If maybe you've been in the industry a while, you got a great reputation, maybe your market's not too competitive, then you might be closer to 50%. So let's just assume that you always should be between 30 and 50%. And we'll go over kind of what other factors dictate where you should end up. So 30%, okay, so if you want to find out what you should charge to be at 30% margin, you divide your costs by the difference of 100. So if you have 1924, then you have 30% is where you want to be. You divide 70% into 1,924, and that gives you your charge, which is 2,748. So if you were to charge $2,748, you would profit $824, and that $824 is 30% of 1924. Okay. If you wanted to make 40%, your charge would be $3,206. You would divide 60 into your costs, and now you would profit $1,282. If you can get 50%, then your profit would be $1,924, which would be a charge of $3,848. So let's just say this is a flake garage. Okay, very typical 500 square foot garage, and I personally would probably be close to 40%. I would like to be anywhere usually between 2,800 to 3,200 on my 2-car garages. But there are some other factors that you need to consider, which would up the labor and material costs, such as if you're filling joints, if you're doing stem walls, or if you're doing custom borders, or other types of designs, if you're putting in a logo. All of that you need to factor in for more time and more material. And the more detailed or custom the job is, then obviously the more labor and time it's going to take, which will increase the price. With all that being said, for a 500 square foot garage, okay, that you're coating, if your material is going to be $1.75 square foot, you should be charging anywhere between $2,700 and $3,800, depending on the market you're in, your experience, the job, the details, scope of work, all that. What does that equate to as far as square feet per price per square feet? And that's going to be $5.50 for your 30%, all the way to $7 and just call it 70 cents for your 50% charge. If you are below this, you're running a very high risk of not making money, or maybe making not enough money to keep your business going. Because remember, do you want to just profit and just retain the earnings each job, or do you want to reinvest some of those earnings into your business so that you can continue to scale, grow, and do other things? So $550, $824 for a day and a half. Would you be happy with that? Right? If you're an owner that is not actually doing the work, now you've got to pay yourself. You should pay yourself. And so are you paying yourself, another 20, 30% from that? And now you're even lower. Maybe the company now is only retaining $400, which you would reinvest or keep in a bank or build your reserve up. So if you're a non-owner, or if you're an owner that's not involved in the job, you probably want to be trying to get to closer to 40% so that you can take a little bit of salary and still have a decent amount to reinvest. The thing that really people make a very big mistake on is this area here. They forget to include these other costs. So if you forget to include those other costs, you just lost $362, and now you're actually only making $460 on this. And now let's say you have to do a repair on it down the road, or maybe the top coat didn't go good and you have to do another top coat. Well, now you lost money on the job because you wanted to get the job and you wanted to get it on your belt, you want to get some good pictures, you want to get experience, but you lost money on it. That's why it's really important to not try to go below 30% on a job that is something that requires good skill, work, and if you do, you're more than likely going to end up losing money, and nobody wants to lose money. Even if you're starting out, it's just still not a good practice to go below 30% because even though you're getting the experience, you're getting exposure, you're not making any money, and a lot of times you're losing money. So this is where you should be on a typical flake flooring garage for 500 square feet. And once again, you just got to know your material, your labor costs, and then from there you can figure out where your charges. But don't forget the other costs. Let's take a look at 1,000 square feet. Okay. So let's just say this is a metallic flooring job, or let's just say this is a high-end porcelain tile job, or maybe it's a custom paint job for a house. If you got 1,000 square feet and your material costs are going to be a little more expensive because this is just higher end. Maybe there's just the material is a little finer material, better material, or you just need more of it for whatever you're trying to do. So let's just say your material cost is $3 a square foot. Now you're at $3,000 in material, and let's just lump in the sundries with that to keep it simple. So let's say that includes your buckets, your roller covers, all those things. Let's say it's going to take 3 guys, 8 hours a day for 4 days at $25 an hour to complete this job. That's $2,400 in labor costs. All right. So now you're up to $5,400 in material and labor, but you have to figure in the travel, taxes, shipping, insurance, discounts, and other things to get your other materials or other costs for the job. So now we have $724 in addition to the labor and material for this job. So your total cost for this job is $6,124. So 1,000 square feet, $6,124 is your hard cost with labor to complete this job. Okay, so what do you charge? How much do you want to make? Now, there's a lot of other things to consider with this, okay? And I'm just going to keep this really simple for now, but we'll talk about why you might want to sway it one way or the other in just a little bit. 30%, 40%, 50%. If you want to make 30%, you charge $8,748. You would profit $2,624, 4 days worth of work. So if you divide 2,600 by 4, you're looking somewhere around $600-700 a day profit. Are you happy with that? Is that where you want to be? If you annualize that, you can figure out what your margin is or where your gross profit will be if you were doing this job consecutively for the whole year. But 40%, you would make $4,000. Now you're at $1,000 a day. Me personally, that's where I would like to be. So if you're in a contracting business, you have 1 to 2 crews, and each of your crews can get you a net of $1,000 or a gross for the job of $1,000 a day, you'd be looking really well, and you'd be very happy with your performance. 50%, you'd be making $6,124. Now, let's just say this is a metallic floor job. We all know that there's a lot of material and a lot of time and effort that goes to these jobs. If something goes wrong on this job, you're going to probably have to pay, really close to the same $3 a square foot for the material to redo it, or let's just say it's $2. In this case, you're going to be, let's say you have to redo a top coat, or let's say you have to redo the design. You're going to be in another $2,000 at least just for the material, and you might have to, spend another $800 in labor. So you're going to be close to $2,000 to $3,000 extra if you have to redo it or if you spend a lot more time on redoing the metallic floor. There goes all your profit if you were at 30%. Okay. And 30% is at $8.75 a square foot. How do I figure that out? Well, your charge, 8,748 divided by 1,000 is going to get you 875. So 874, 8.75 is basically, it's easy math when you're dealing with just round numbers like 1,000. So if you're charging less than $9 a square foot for metallics and something goes wrong, you're screwed. You're not going to make any money. And that's why people always ask me, how much should I charge for metallics? And I always say, if you're charging less than $9 a square foot, you better make sure everything goes perfect or you're going to be losing money or breaking even. Now, if you want to be at $12.25 a square foot, which is usually where I want to be for metallics, then you would be charging $12,248 and you would make $6,124. Now, if something goes wrong and you have to redo something, maybe you're still out $2,000-3,000, but you still made $3,000. Okay, this is a very custom metallic floor. They're hard to do. Not a lot of people do them or do them right. And so, if you want to do it right and you want to make sure everything goes smooth, charge the right price for it. Okay, and if you have to redo something, you have to put another top coat down. You got to spend another day's labor sanding, putting down another coat. Make sure you include that, and that's why when someone asks me how much should you charge for metallic floors on average for 1,000 square feet, you need to be north of $10 at least, and you should be closer to $12 a square foot for metallic floors. All right, 3,000 square foot. So let's just say this is maybe another flake job, maybe this is a resurfacing job where you're putting down micro cement, you're doing some custom stains. Let's just say the material is going to be at $2 a square foot. That's 6,000. 2 times 3,000 is 6,000. Let's say it's going to take 5 days, 8 hours a day, $25 an hour for 4 employees. You're at $4,000 in labor costs, and that's 10,000. And now you add up your taxes, your travel expenses, and shipping, insurance, and now you have $1,540 of other costs that are directly related to this job. Okay, that's the most important part. You're not going to charge your liability insurance or other things like your office staff, your utilities. That has nothing to do with this job. This is direct costs related to the completion and service of that job. So now we have a total of $11,540. You know that is your minimum cost if you're going to complete it in 5 days with 4 employees. So what do you want to make on this? What are you going to be happy with? All right. So 3,000 square feet. If you want to make 30%, you need to charge $16,486. Remember, how we get to this is by dividing this number by 0.7, the difference of 30 into 100. So 16,486 is 11,540 divided by 0.7 or 70%, and you would make $5,000. Okay, so $5,000, 5 days, you're at $1,000 a day. Okay, that's pretty good. Once again, if you can get to $1,000 a day in profit, I think that is something that is what most people or contractors should shoot for. So you remember, so we got to that on 30% here, we got to that at about 40% here, and on the other one, we were at about 40% to get to, we were actually probably about 45% to get to that because it was a day and a half. So it does vary depending on the job, depending on the material costs and whatnot. If you want to get to 40%, you need to charge $19,233, divide that by 0.6, and now you just made $7,700 roughly. If you can get to 50%, which some people can, because once again, metallic floors or very custom floors, custom, trim, paint, you name it. If it's a high-end job, you can get to 50%. If it's a market area that's not competitive, you've been in business a long time, you have a great reputation, you should be able to incrementally increase your profit percentage as you get better and more of an established business and reputation. But if you can charge 50%, which would be the same as 11,540, or even gross 50%, you would charge 23,000. And now you're at close to $2,000 a day that you're making for this job. Okay. So if this is a once again, a flake flooring job or maybe micro topping or resurfacing, which for me is usually around the same price. Your price per square foot is going to be very similar to your flake flooring job. Now, so there's a lot of factors that go into pricing, as you can see, but there's some other things that you can still tweak it. Okay. So I would always encourage you to go through this, get your price, and then I want you to consider these things here that can also dictate if you want to move it up or down. Okay. So are you paying yourself? Okay. If you're not paying yourself, then you might want to try to get a little bit more out of that job, because if you're not included in the actual work or you're not doing that job yourself as an owner, then you want to try to get a little bit more, squeeze a little bit more out of that. Now, if you are scaling and you have 3 or 4 crews, now you are getting a lot more revenue. You might be able now to scale it back because you actually have multiple crews working, and so you don't need to make as much as an owner on jobs you're not on. You can make that up with your volume, your market. And so what do I mean by your market is, are you in LA? Are you in a rural town? Those things matter, because if you're in Los Angeles, you probably need to be, thinking about your market area. You have a lot more contractors per capita than you are maybe in a rural market. So you might have to consider lowering your prices in metro areas to stay competitive, depending on how you are doing in your business. Once again, that kind of goes back to your competition. What is your competition doing? You need to scope it out. You need to understand where your competition is at. I always like to be kind of in the medium to higher part of my pricing with my competition. I never want to be the lowest, and I usually never want to be the highest, but sometimes I am, right? So I like to be somewhere in the middle, but skewed towards the higher part of my pricing for the market. Is there a gap in your schedule? Meaning, if you have a week where you don't have any jobs, well, you might want to consider lowering your price just a little bit to fill in that gap. So, and conversely, if you are booked always 2 months out, then you should be charging a heck of a lot more. If someone is willing to pay you more and schedule it out 2.5 months or 3 months down the road, then that's just even better for you. So sometimes how your schedule is booked or not booked can dictate if you want to raise or lower your prices to fill in the gaps. Your reputation, as I just said, if you've been in the business 5, 10, 15 years, you got a great reputation, you probably should be charging a little bit more. If you're just starting out, as I put here, maybe you charge a little less, but try not to go below the 30%. If you go below the 30%, then once again, anything goes wrong in that job, you're going to be either breaking even or losing money. Inventory, if you have, let's say, a lot of material left over from other jobs, you want to maybe offer that at a discount, you can consider that, and then you can lower your price maybe 10%, 5% if someone is willing to go with what you already have in stock. So just kind of keep that as a best practice. If you're just starting out, we talked about that. If you have multiple jobs with the same client, right, you can minimize your travel expenses. You can make up time of labor if you're completing multiple jobs at the same site, so you can offer discounts in that regards. And it's all still going to get you back to your, at least 30%. Or 40%, but it's just another way for you to bid a job that is getting you the best chance to get that job and still staying within your parameters of your profit margins. And then specialty work. So as I said before, if you're in a specialty field, you generally should be charging, maybe closer to 40 to 50%. If not a lot of people in your area are able to do that work or do it well, then know that you should be able to charge a little bit more. So I hope all this is helpful. Once again, we got 500 square foot, 1,000 square foot, 3,000 square foot job. Whether you are in different fields, you should be able to apply the same principle to your field or trade that you're in, because the costs don't, the actual categories of the costs don't change, but the material costs obviously will change. How much you are paying your employees will change and whatnot. But the material, the labor, and the other costs, you just plug in what works for you in your trade and your market, and then you can figure out how much you can charge based upon 30, 40, or 50%. If you want to charge more than 50%, you can get away with it, go for it. But you obviously will know what your market is willing to do. So hope that helps. Once again, my name is Paul Campanario, and I'm with Next Level Entrepreneurs. I'm a consultant, and a business coach. So I would definitely love to speak with you and see how I can help you scale your business and get you to new heights and break the barriers maybe that you're stuck at. So if you're looking to expand, if you're looking to start, I'm definitely one that can help you out in many ways. So book a call with me. You can find a link on one of my bios or my social pages, or go to nextlevelentrepreneurs.com. And I look forward to speaking with you if you want to get rolling with me. So I hope this was helpful. Please like and subscribe my YouTube channel. We'll be coming out with a lot more of this whiteboard contractor series coming soon. So we're going to be talking about marketing. We're going to be talking about standard operating procedures, staff, how to manage employees, different tips and practices that are just going to help you and your business run much smoother. So appreciate y'all. Stay blessed. Talk to you soon.